say hello to Peperomia polybotrya. So it's been a pretty good day, pretty good little Sunday. I recently got some really good news at my job and wanted to celebrate by treating myself to a plant that has been on my wish list for a while. And of course, I wanted to support my local greenhouse. I know that there is some pretty significant and important discussion around some recent developments by a certain grower for big box stores. I think we all kind of know what that is. And to kind of help support and be an ally, and also to help and support local businesses, I opted to go to my local greenhouse, Tonkadale, and pick one up. Paying the extra dollars for me is kind of worth it in these types of situations. So just wanted to put that out there and introduce you to my big ass polybotrya. Okay, so I've been running into some difficulties this week in getting my winter series out. I was planning this whole thing about showing you around my home and talking about grow lights and other supplemental things that I've been using to help my plants survive and even thrive this winter, which has been the case. They've done pretty well. However, in practice, that has not happened the way I envisioned, and I've run into some technical issues, so kind of scrapped the whole project. I'm gonna get to it eventually. It's just tabled right now. But I've been sitting here going, I don't have a video to put out. I don't have a video this week. And then my hero, Pam's Pretty Plants, came out with this really great idea, the Springplantuber Tag, and it aligns perfectly with some of the content I was hoping to be able to film for you. So it's a really great introduction to what I'm going to be talking about hopefully next week in more detail. But this is an awesome tag. She tagged everybody, which is awesome. Thanks, Pam. This is going to be fun. So I'm going to go through those questions that she so graciously came up with and provided and answered in her own video. If you want to check that out, I'm going to link that in my description too, because that's the source material. Gotta see the OG. But I'm going to answer those questions too. So thanks, Pam, again, and let's get started. I do have my wine, and I do have my polybotrya right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start answering questions. Maybe I'll show you some things along the way here, but let's just start with number one. Have you started spring cleaning or repotting yet? The answer is no. For most of my plants, I repotted the ones that I needed to pretty much before fall. A lot of them got repotted this summer. The ones that needed to. If I don't have to repot a plant, I won't. Especially my Hoya. A lot of Hoya don't necessarily need to be repotted right away. I will leave them in their nursery pots or their grow pots for an extended period of time. Right now, I'm looking around here. I think that probably the first plants that I will repot, I have a couple of Calathea rufibarbas that could really use some deeper soil and probably better soil that kind of holds the moisture a little bit more for them. And I might even consider repotting them together just to kind of condense and consolidate a little bit, because I have two of them and they're beautiful. I love them. I love the velvety leaves. Let me see if I can grab one here. Too many plants all of a sudden. It right now is in its little grow pot, which to me feels pretty small. I've just been a little scared to repot these guys this winter. I don't like repotting in the winter. I really don't, especially here in Minnesota. It's just, I like to wait. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do. I'm keeping tabs on their care. I have to water them a lot. It's really frequent. It's every couple of days, it seems like, or they start to get dramatic. But yeah, I think it's probably the first ones I'll go with. Other than that, I don't really see much else that is going to need it. So that's the answer to number 1. Number 2 is, do you stop fertilizing over winter? And if so, have you started fertilizing again yet? So I have been pretty bad about the fertilizing situation. For the plants that I've had, you know, previously before this past summer, I can't really remember having fertilized them much, if at all. I definitely would like to give it a try because, you know, I've heard it's good for the plants, depending on the type of plant, obviously. And I would want to go with an organic fertilizer. So I'm thinking I will probably be using the Espoma brand. I thought about doing some fertilizing for my Peperomia this winter, just because it's their active growth season as opposed to the summer. But looking around, I just recently did a plant checkup and a watering couple of days for them. And I didn't really notice too much going on. They're all still actively growing. In fact, this guy is my Peperomia elongata, and I've had this since probably May 2019. It has done nothing with no help from me. I think I just repotted it in terracotta. That was about all I've done with it. I haven't fertilized it or anything, and it's got new growth. All of a sudden, I'm gonna see if I can show this to you. I don't know if you can see these little leaves here. These are all new as of maybe a couple of weeks. So it's really the first thing I've seen this plant do, and that's exciting to me. And it's kind of happened on its own without fertilizing. So I was going to fertilize my Peperomia, but all of them that are growing are still growing well. So I might just kind of hold off. I don't know. Decisions. I have to make decisions. Okay. Question number 3. What, if any, plants did you lose this winter? This is a good question. I lost my massive macho fern. I was pretty bummed about it. So this plant I had gotten this past summer, mainly because I wanted to get some plants for my patio. It's relatively bright, but it is on the north side of my building, and it's shaded, so it gets a lot of indirect light and some good morning light and afternoon light, but it's not like it has the sun beating down on it all day. I had gotten a few ferns to put out there and a couple other plants, a few aloe plants. I had a staghorn fern that lived out there this summer, which is still with us. But then I got these macho ferns. So they grew quickly and they grew large. I eventually ended up condensing them into one pot because I was trying to figure out how I was going to bring it indoors for the winter. I did bring it indoors. I tried to give it the best possible conditions I could. I just don't think it was humid enough in here for it. So it got really crispy really quickly, and then it got mealybugs badly. So then when I did the treatment for the mealybugs, didn't seem to like that either. So it was just sitting in this sad corner of my home. It seemed to bounce back a little bit. I cut away a lot of the dying growth on it, and it seemed to be doing okay for a while. And then it declined again, and things got crispy, and then I think it even got mealybugs for a second time. So at that point, everything was yellowing. I decided to let it go. And so I think even right now, it's sitting outside. It's been out there for at least a good month, waiting for the compost. I hate telling stories like that, but it's the truth. We're gonna lose plants. Winter is tough. Winter is really tough up here. Question 4. Did you order plants in the mail over winter? If so, how'd they do? This is a great question, and I'm gonna hopefully elaborate a little bit more on this. This was an idea I'd had for one of my 2 winter themed videos. So that's great. This is perfect. I have ordered quite a few plants this winter, and I've done so. I've tried to be really responsible about it. I've tried to go through sellers that either had some sort of winter protection insurance or shipping standards, practices that they use to ensure that plants have the best chance of survival upon delivery. A lot of vendors I've found, especially I've noticed this on Etsy quite a bit, will include heat packs for an additional cost. So that was kind of the base for me, or the bare minimum for when I would consider ordering through someone, is can I at least purchase a heat pack, and can I try and order this and time it for a good weather window based on what their shipping turnaround looks like and what my schedule looks like. So all of these things I try to take into consideration. I should say most of the plants I did order online were Hoya. That's on brand. 5. What are the next plant or plant-related purchases on your wish list, and will you get them this spring? Any other wish list plants? That's a good question. Oh, I'm sure there are a few Hoya that I've been eyeballing. Yeah. I wonder. Oh, I do have a wish list. And most of them are Hoya. So probably the top Hoya on my list right now, I have Hoya calistophylla. I would love to be able to acquire one of those. Hoya finlaysonii is another one. I'm big into the foliage for Hoya. The blooms, it's great if they bloom for me. It's fine if they don't. I just really like the leaves, and the interesting looking leaves are my favorite. So we have calistophylla, finlaysonii, meredithii is on there, and Vitellinoides is also on there. The other non-Hoya plant on my current wish list, which is surprisingly short, the non-Hoya is a variegated Asplenium nidus, or the variegated bird's nest fern. That would be cool. Question 6. Did you have any life-saving tricks or tools that helped your plants survive winter? Yes. Yes, I did. I live in a garden level apartment, and it is, so when I say that, a lot of people might think basement. Kind of. So my apartment is garden level, and my building is built into the side of a hill. So my lower level apartment, one side is all open. It has windows. It has full-sized big windows. Actually, two sides of my house. I have north-facing windows and I have west-facing windows. West, southwest. The other side of my house, the ideal light side, the south side, no windows. That's built into the hill. So this winter, when our Earth tilted on its axis and the sun turned away from the north side of things, I had to get creative, and I knew I was going to have to going into it when I started acquiring all of the plants that I did. And it was kind of a decision that I came to, that I kind of viewed it as an investment, and some of the luxury lights that I was looking at, I went back and forth for a while, and then ultimately came to the decision that if I got one and liked it, I might get a few more to put in other places of my home where I wanted plants but wouldn't be able to grow plants on their own without additional light. And if I was going to make that commitment, I wanted the lights to essentially incorporate into my aesthetic and the design that I was going for here. So I did pick up an aspect grow light from Soltech Solutions and loved it. And I know that those are a very large investment. They're not cheap. For me, it was worth it. I did acquire 2 more over the course of my year. And I know that not everybody's able to do that. And as well as they work for me and my plants that I have growing under them, I do have one that is growing Hoya under it, and they're thriving, and it's really their only light source. So I will say that about the aspect light, is that it kind of backs up all the hype with its performance. I also have a couple of those GE grow light bulbs that you can pick up at Target or, you know, a department store, you know, wherever you, hardware store, wherever they're offered. But I do have a couple of those as well, and the plants I have growing under those lights are doing well too. So it's not to say that you need necessarily to spend that money in order to have plants that grow and survive lower light conditions over winter. You can go with the GE lights. I know a lot of YouTubers have their own preferred grow light options, and I know Pam mentions hers in her video. I think they're the harvest grow lights, which I would love to try at some point. They look pretty cool, and I think I would have some space in my home that they would fit into and the plants would benefit from. So I'm always open to options. I also have a couple of LED strip lights that are grow lights. I think Becca de la Plants mentioned those. I think they're the Choya brand. She mentioned those in one of her videos as well, and I decided to give those a try based on her feedback. And those are doing great too. The plants that I have under those lights are doing well too. So there are options out there, and it's a full spectrum of affordability, and it really comes down to, you know, what you want to try and how many plants you have and where you want to grow them. But I do strongly advise, and took my own advice on this, for the winter and the lighting conditions I had, I wanted grow lights to be able to keep things moving and not lose too many plants. Question 7. Do you put your houseplants outside for the summer, and will you this year? I have. I have put plants out for the summer. I have a couple of ponytail palms that they're not my favorite, but I did get them for my patio specifically, and then when the weather turned, I felt bad and didn't want to just leave them out there. So I brought them in. They will go back out. I don't have space for them. They do the thing where they fan out everywhere, and it looks cool. It's just, I think they're better suited to my patio, and they did well out there this summer, so that's where they will go. Ferns, I did have a couple of ferns out there. As I mentioned, my macho fern died. I did have a staghorn fern out there. I have it mounted onto a cedar board. So that lived out there for a little while. It did okay. It's doing better actually inside. I have it in the room of my house that gets the most light. So it gets really bright indirect light. I also have a Levoit humidifier in that room. So the humidity levels maintain. I think it really likes those conditions because it's put out some new basil fronds. It's doing really well. It's growing fine where it is. So I'm kind of reluctant to change things up on plants that are showing signs of improvement or growth. We'll see. I do have a vegetable garden. That's a big thing that I do. It's a thing my mom and I bond over and do together. So I'm going to be planting our vegetable plot coming up. We try and start in May, early May if possible, if the weather cooperates. I was on the Logi's website not too long ago, and they have these really cool compact blueberry bushes that you can grow your own blueberries, and they are zoned for my area. They seem like they would do really well, and they're compact enough. They're advertised. You can grow them in pots if you want. So I might try that. And they're also, you know, blueberries are dog safe. I do have a hound dog. She leaves my plants alone. I feel like she's a little bit more adventurous outdoors though, so any plants that I put out there, at least on her level, I want them to be pet safe. Eight, do you have or did you have any pest issues over winter? And if so, did you conquer them? Had a couple. A lot less than I was thinking I was going to. So I mentioned the macho fern that got the mealybugs. Thankfully, I try to keep my plants separate from each other as much as I can. So nothing is kind of intermingling on the shelves where they are. Thankfully, because that was an issue. I did treat plants that were in its relative proximity as well with some neem oil, just to make sure. I didn't see any mealybugs anywhere else. Haven't, knock on wood. So I had mealybugs on that fern. I also noticed I got thrips on my huge oak leaf ivy, my Cissus rhombifolia that I inherited from my grandma Betty. That was earlier. I think it was closer to fall, late fall, early winter maybe. I did have to end up treating that pretty significantly, and it suffered a little bit for it. We had to do the insecticidal soap on it. Bounced back. I was treating that thing for over a month. Repeat treatments with the soap and then neem oil as well. It seems to be on the rebound. I haven't seen any thrips on it since. So fingers crossed. Those are the only two that I've noticed. And question 9, show one plant that thrived all winter. Be right back. I'm going to show you two. These are the two Hoya that have existed under one of my aspect grow lights, and only under that light. I have them in a corner in my bedroom, and it is not in front of a window. It does not receive much daylight, to be honest, at all. So I put a light there because I wanted plants in that corner, and put these guys there as kind of an experiment. I kept a close eye on them at first because the first sign of decline, I wanted them out of that corner because they are beautiful plants. So this is my Hoya Krinkle 8. I shouldn't have been too worried because they are both killing it right now. All this new growth coming out here. A lot of these ends, the vining ends, have growth, and I'm noticing quite a bit up top in the middle. I don't know how much I can show you. There's just a lot going on with this guy, which I'm thrilled with. Then this is my big Hoya pubicalyx. And again, grow points on almost every single vine that's popping up here. This is a new tendril. Leaves there. Growth. So much growth. Just won't stop. I'm not complaining. It sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not. I love these plants. Last question. Show one plant you're most excited to see spring growth on. Okay. So this is my most recent online plant order. It originally was 2. This is the Hoya pubicalyx red buttons variety. When I ordered it, and this order came from Gabriella Plants, whom I love. I've ordered a few times from them, and I've even ordered a couple of times this winter with great results. So I'm not considering this a failure necessarily. I posted a little bit about it on my Instagram because when it got to me, there was some pretty significant cold damage on these tendrils. These all used to be long, and they, a few of them had leaves on them that did not make it. I did pay for the winter protection on this guy that Gabriella Plants does offer, and it was really well wrapped and insulated down by the roots, which I was so thankful for. The base of the plants look good, the roots look good, all of the long tendrils were outside of the insulated packaging, and Didn't have much between them and the elements other than cardboard, which was unfortunate. I know winter weather up here in Minnesota is unpredictable, but it's usually predictably cold. So they didn't make it. I did have to cut back a lot of the long vining stems just because they were dead. They were mush and the leaves were really frozen. I'm still not considering this a failure, but I am excited to see new spring growth on it. I have it under a grow light right now, keeping a good eye on it. It's still in its grow pot. I did end up putting them together because I did check the roots, and I figured as long as I'm disturbing the roots, I might as well get it into some good soil, and I'm sure it was in good soil, but you know, just kind of dry that out a little bit because it was pretty wet also when I got it. The soil was. The roots looked fine, but the soil was wet and cold, and I didn't want to lose it. So I repotted it, and it seems to be hanging in there. So I'm really excited to see new stuff happen with this one. Okay guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much, Pam. You're a lifesaver. You gave me some video content this week. That's awesome. Her video is in the description below. And if you'd like to subscribe and maybe catch up with me in a little bit, I am going to be filming some context around my winter setup here in my apartment. And I'll even probably show you the plants that I ordered online and how they're doing from my ordering escapades this winter. So please feel free to like this video, subscribe if you want, and I will see you next time. Enjoy your plants.